Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is part 2 of my 10-part series where I'm looking at my top 100 comics. And a lot of these comics that are on this particular section are really ones that are from the Golden Age. So I think it's all Golden Age actually. Um, and the price range for these ones are between $1,200 and $1,400. And really, it's kind of an interesting group of comics because they're ones that are key issues, and it's amazing to me that you can buy a lot of these books. Well, all of these books, as I said, $1,200 to $1,300 for cheaper than some of these modern books that are of speculation characters that aren't really that great. But these are all, Golden Age characters that have been, tried and tested and are actually pretty awesome. So I'm going to show you the books. I'm going to get into why I bought the books and get into how much they're worth and how much I paid roughly. And we'll see. So this is books that are so I already showed my first 10 books. So this is 90 to 81. Okay, so number 90 on my list is Sensation Comics number 68. And this is just such a great classic Wonder Woman cover. You got Wonder Woman jumping in, and you got the guys shooting at her. And I always think it's funny with Wonder Woman how she she blocks the bullets with her bracelets. It's sort of like they always seem to have skimpily dressed women that go into like military or some kind of barbarian kind of situation. And they're wearing the skimpiest armor, but yet that armor somehow protects them. Well, this is at the extreme of that because it's just these wimpy little bracelets, and somehow she uses them to deflect bullets. I just think it's kind of funny. So this is a mid-grade, and this book will cost you around $1,200. You can buy a mid-grade copy of this book for around $1,200. It's one of those books that is a little hard to get. So often the fair market value is $1,200, but you might have to pay more. And that's very normal with these kind of Golden Age books because it's a bit of a seller's market because there's just not many. Most of the Golden Age books will have less than 100 on the census. And these books are highly sought after because, for example, this one just happens to feature the first appearance of the Huntress. Now, this is the Golden Age Huntress. It's a little different than the modern Huntress, but still, it is the first appearance of the Huntress. And, character first appearances. And Huntress, they've actually just recently came out with a new series for the Huntress. So, it's a character that has some legs to them, and they're a popular character. And to get their first appearance for around, as I said, like $1,200, not a bad deal. And mid-grade. And a high grade, obviously, it's going to be much more than that. So this is the origin and first appearance of the Huntress, Paula Brooks. And this is from August of 1947. So Sensation Comics number 68. And I pretty much paid fair market value for this book. Okay, next one is I'll actually take it out of the plastic, allow you to see it a bit better. Next one is Wonder Woman number 5. And mine, again, I can't afford the higher grade ones. So this is, it's got a big chip out here, but for the most part, the book is actually quite clean. It's just got that chip missing. So it's Wonder Woman number 5. And this is around, I think it's like $1,235. So it's still at around that $1,200 for the fair market value for this book. I paid exactly that. I paid fair market value, and I paid it last year, so it pretty much hasn't changed. That's another thing that you'll notice with Golden Age books. They're either very slow to change in prices. So in some ways, buying some of these hot spec characters maybe better because of the fact that they go up in value and they reach these crazy prices, and they, you realize the return much quicker. Golden Age books, it's much slower process. But I think in a weird way, the opportunity is there because a lot of these books haven't really caught up with the hot market that we've experienced over the last three years, I would say. Um, so this is Wonder Woman #5 from 1943, and this is the first appearance of Dr. Psycho. Now, Dr. Psycho is kind of a cool character. She was in the first Wonder Woman movie, and she's got that mask and kind of like, uh, I think that's Dr. Psycho. Um, and what else is there? No, that's about it. And it has like a Susan B. Anthony story in it as well. But I think it's Dr. Psycho that's got the mask and kind of like into the toxic things and fueling the war effort. So just a really great character. It's either Dr. Psycho or Dr. Poison. There's another doctor. There's two doctors. So I'm just trying to think of which one it is. I don't want to say the wrong thing. So yeah, you can correct me in the comments below if I'm right or wrong. But just a really great. I've been trying to collect Wonder Woman from 1 all the way up to 329, which is the full run of Wonder Woman. I'm only a few issues away now. But this is one of the ones that is an early Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman #5. The next book on my list, this is one that is got so many things going for it in terms of Golden Age books. It is The Haunt of Fear #17. And there's actually two #17s. There's some weird numbering thing going on with Haunt of Fear, but this is the correct one. That's all that you need to know. This is like, again, this is a lower grade. This is like a 3.0. But in this lower grade, this is such a sought after book that it goes for about 12 to 1300. And the reason people seek this book is for several reasons. It is the origin book for all the major EC like hosts, I would say, the narrators. You got the witch, you got the crypt keeper, and I forget the third one. So there's like the three ones: Haunt of Fear, Vault of Horror, and Crypt of Terror. And it's basically the origin stories for these three characters. But that's not the reason why I bought it. I actually bought it for a different reason. This book was another book that was mentioned in The Seduction of the Innocent. So I like to get these books that are part of historical significance, because they are the ones that led to the Comic Code Authority and pretty much the end of the Golden Age, and really had a major impact on the comics that we experience even to this day. So this is Haunt of Fear, #17. And so it just has a whole bunch of things going on for it. Another thing that a collector will look for, and a reason why people will generally buy these kind of books, is it's a Johnny Craig cover. And he's a very hot artist from the Golden Age that did a lot of these EC horror comics. And anything pre-code horror is generally pretty expensive anyway. So, and it's a skull cover. There's like so many things going on with this book, but it is a great book. This is Haunt of Fear #17. Okay, next one is one that I actually got. This was a major score for me, and because I got it at a really good price. It's one of those ones that there's not too many on on the census. And it's one that there's not much sales history. So really what I paid is what I'm sort of estimating as the fair market value, but the fair market value is probably higher than that. So I'll explain. I paid $12.50. I paid $12.50 for this book, just so you know. And this one is The Happy Hooligans. And this just happens to be the first appearance of Moon Girl. And sort of one of these semi-popular Golden Age characters. Um, she had many failed series actually, but it was sort of strange because her first appearance is in this and in Moon Girl and the Prince, which is another book, um, and it was sort of the both appearances happened at the same time. So this book and that book are both accredited as being the first appearance. And this also happens to have the origin story. So this is a lot of collectors that collect Moon Girl will go after this book because it has both the first appearance, like tied first appearance, and it has that extra origin story. So it's a little bit of both. The other cool thing is it is Happy Hooligans #1, and it was a short-lived series, but people, if you're interested in the Happy Hooligans, well, this is their book as well. I actually got a pretty good deal on this. At the time, I bought this from Heritage, and at the time, somebody had a lower grade, and it was on eBay for around 3 to 6. It was like either 3 or 6,000. It was like a lot of money, because again, these are one of these books where people don't know what they're worth. It's really hard to figure out what the value is because there's very little sales history. I got a steal when I bought it. So this one has light tan to off-white pages. So the page quality isn't as good, but the grade is a solid 8, which is a very high grade for this book. It's one of the higher grades for this book even. So I'll show you even the back. You can buy some wallets. So just a great book. I like these kind of covers where you get a little bit of a story going on the cover as well. So I was quite happy to get this into my collection and at a reasonable price, because I was debating about buying that more expensive one because it was one of those books you just don't see that often, and I do like Moon Girl. Okay, the next one is another one I bought from Heritage. And I paid, and again, this is one where not much sales history. So you basically go, I'm just going fair market value is what I paid, because it's one of those ones where there's just no sales history. So this is All Select Comics #11, and I paid $1,300 for it. So you got Blonde Phantom. This is her first appearance, and it's a great cover because it's not only a first appearance of a major character. Blonde Phantom is a character that still has, they're still making comics with Blonde Phantom. So, this is a character that got legs to it. This is a Marvel character. Now, at the time, Blonde Phantom was part of Timely. Okay, so Timely became Marvel later on. It went through like Atlas, Timely, and Marvel were the 3 iterations. Now this is from the fall of 1946. It has a Stan Lee story, so some pretty great people involved with it, and Sid Shores did the cover. So it's just some really great people involved, and it's great to have that first appearance with that first cover. Like not only is she in the book, but she's on the cover. Now, one thing that I find that's really great about this book is the fact that they also name her on the title. That's really rare that they put the new character in the masthead, but they did that with Blonde Phantom. Generally, when they announce a new character in the Golden Age, what they would do is they would have like a whole bunch of highlights of what you can expect, almost like a table of contents. That they put that on the side here, and then they would say, "Oh, introducing some new character," and that's common in the Golden Age. But generally, they didn't make the cover; they would just be on that announcement. That'd be it. But to have her on the cover and have that kind of marquee status, on the title, is quite nice. So this is a really great book. It's a low grade. It is a 2.0, but it says the first appearance and of Blonde Phantom, Louise Grant, and it's also got a Miss America story in it. Not a bad story. I actually read this one. It's quite good. Okay. She's kind of like a masked superhero, not superhero, without superpowers. Like just, like it was a very common thing in the Golden Age that you have these characters who are socialites who, put on a mask and maybe a little bit of a fancy costume, and then go out and fight crime. It's really common in the Golden Age. Okay, now some more pre-code horror. So pre-code horror is hot. It's been hot for a while now. And this series, particularly the one I'm about to show you, is incredibly hot. And again, this is a book that I paid around, how much did I pay? I'm gonna check, I have to check my notes. How much I paid? I paid $1,350, which I'm saying is fair market value. So this actually paid a little bit less than that, I believe. So what it is, it's a purple label. So I'll explain this a little bit, how I calculated the price for this. This is a very expensive book, like normally. The fortunate thing for me is that it is a purple label. Now, with purple labels, depending on the grade and depending on the level of restoration, this is slight C1, which is the lowest. It's amateur restoration, but a very small amount of amateur restoration. So I believe, and I kind of looked at it with purple light. There was a little bit, like maybe like a couple dabs, that was it, of color restoration, where somebody tried to blend the color a bit better. I believe that's what it was. Yeah, color, a small amount of color touch on the cover. Now, this one is, personally, I find the best of the Ghost comic covers. Now, most collectors will actually chase after Ghost Comics number 6, which is considered to be the best one, but I like this one better. Ghost Comics number 6 has a woman in red. It's like a very common thing in the Golden Age, and in bondage. And you got this kind of monster guy, sort of like kind of like Quasimodo like guy kind of standing over her. But this one I really like because it's a lingerie cover, which is another highly sought after element in the Golden Age, especially on the cover. Usually what you get in the Golden Age is you don't get the cover with the lingerie panel, but you get internal panels that are done with lingerie, and just that element alone will raise the value of the book. So to have a lingerie cover is a really big deal. And it's a really well done one by Maurice Whitman, who is a very popular artist from the Golden Age. I really love this cover. So again, with the pricing of purple labels, I just want to finish what I was thinking about that. You can basically, it's a percentage. So based on the grade and based on the era and based on the level of restoration. So those kind of 3 different things, you can kind of work out a percentage of how much it should sell for. So this book, if it was not restored, would probably cost around $2,000-ish. Okay, but because it is restored, I'm estimating the value at around $13.50. Okay, so a little bit about that one. Next book is a really important book. There's a bit of a theme going on with a lot of these books of female superheroes, and I've showed previously already one from this female superhero, but this one is a key. This is the only book from this group that is not Golden Age, and it's barely not Golden Age because it's the first Silver Age Wonder Woman. So this is Wonder Woman number 98. And the interesting thing about this book is that it, is that key book for Wonder Woman's first Silver Age appearance. So it's a major book in terms of that. The reason this kind of was considered her Silver Age appearance, because like if you look at the age of this book, this is from 1958. And the reason they kind of put this book as being that cutoff, because her first coded, like where it got the Comic Code Authority, this is the Comic Code Authority, which really to me marks between the Silver Age and Golden Age generally, is actually much, much earlier. It was from issue number 72. And that was from like in the early like mid 50s. Okay, so that's like several years earlier. The reason this was, so what happened is that you got issue number 72 with the first code on it. And then those books that are kind of in the 70s to this book, 80s and all this book, are considered to be atomic age. There's sort of like there's like a age that almost is a forgotten age of the atomic age, which was kind of between the golden and silver ages. And some of the things that are kind of, you'll notice within the atomic age books, is you'll see a lot of like sci-fi kind of elements. Like even Batman has like there's a really great cover where it's like outer space. It's like, so that's a book I'm actually seeking. So there's a lot of like sci-fi elements that happen in that atomic age, and that's part of the reason why it's called the atomic age, because it was around the time when they were doing a lot of these atomic experiments, like the atomic bomb experiments and stuff. And there was almost a culture that happened at that time in the 50s where you get people kind of worried about the effects of radiation, worried about alien invasions, worried about all these weird, sci-fi kind of things. And that really did come into play within the comics. Now, this book is now a new direction for Wonder Woman, where they retold her origin story. So this is a retelling of her origin story, where you have all the Wonder Woman wannabes, I guess. They all dress up in the suit, and they battle it out to find out who is going to be the one that will represent Paradise Island in our world. So it's kind of a retelling of her origin story. So this is Wonder Woman number 98, the first Silver Age appearance of Wonder Woman, and it's kind of a major book. Okay, actually I paid $1,100 for that, and it's now worth about $13.50. So if you're wondering about prices, I'm trying to mention the prices whenever I can. Okay, the next book is another book with restoration. And it's another key book from the Golden Age. And I kind of wanted to get into a little bit more about restoration and why it's kind of important to understand. So this is All-Star Comics number 5. And this is the first appearance of Hawkgirl. Now, the character that actually is Hawkgirl, I guess, she appeared before. But this is the first time where she wears a outfit that makes her look like Hawkgirl. So this is considered her first appearance. So it's the first appearance of, okay, one sec. My reading ability is bad when it's too close. Okay, the first appearance of Sierra Sanders as Hawkgirl. Okay, and this one does, again, it has a little bit of restoration. I'll read the restoration. Restoration includes a small amount of color touch on cover. Tape on interior cover. Now, the tape on interior cover is not considered restoration. Tape, for some reason, is not restoration. I don't know why, but it's one of those weird ones. But the slight color touch does, impact the grade and value of the book because it gets that purple label. Again, this is slight amateur restoration. Now, what's the difference between amateur and professional restoration? Well, often amateur restoration is harder to remove. So if you do professional restoration, you'll use elements that can be reversed. So the restoration can be removed. And if it's really done well, it gets a conserved grade. So there's like different levels of restoration. And those different levels do impact the price of the book. The higher the level of restoration in terms of the professionalism of the restorer, it increases the value of the book. Still, it's going to be less than the blue label, but generally what will happen is if we, like, let's say I crack this book open and remove the restoration, probably the book would get like a 3.5. Okay, so if it was a high grade, let's say it was like a 9, which would be really amazing for this book, and I removed the restoration, it'd probably even drop it right down to like a 4. Like that's how much impact restoration can have when you remove it, because what's going to happen is you're going to have like little pieces especially with this color, where it's color touch, you're gonna have little pieces where it's gonna be either like removed, where it just becomes white, and you just see like through the paper, or you're gonna actually have little chips out of the paper, and that can really dramatically reduce the grade. So when it's a lower grade, the impact on the price is much, much less. So what you'll find is a book like this, where it has amateur slight restoration, maybe you'll be able to recognize about 80 to 90% of the value for the restored book. With that being said, this book generally goes for around $1,400. So, and I think I paid around $1,200 for it, or $1,100 for it. So it's gone up a little bit. This is from 1941, first appearance of Hawkgirl, which is she's a kind of a cool character because she's one of the first costumed superheroes. She is actually the first costumed superhero without superpowers. She didn't have superpowers in this version. She gets those later in the Silver Age, but in this version, she doesn't have superpowers. Wonder Woman is seen as the first costume superhero with superpowers. It's kind of weird. But yeah, so this is All-Star Comics number 5. Really great book. And as I said, these books are fairly, like, I know that they sound expensive when you say $1,400, but if you think about what they are and the historical significance, these are major characters we're talking about. Hawkgirl is kind of like a major character, in my opinion. She has a series like where she's on Justice League. What's it called? Teen Titans. She's a character that, or Titans, I should say. These are kind of established characters, and it amazes me how undervalued these books are. So just my little bit of a rant there about how undervalued some of these Golden Age books are. Okay, the next book is a really major one, and a one that I had wanted since I was a little kid because I collected Mad magazine, and this is Mad #1. Now, there's a couple cool things going on with this book. This is the first book dedicated to satire, and it was vastly successful. So one of the things that happened in the Golden Age was one of the people that was heavily involved with bringing down the whole comic industry was William Gaines, or Will Gaines, or Bill Gaines. So basically what happened was he was the guy behind EC Comics. And a lot of the books that were mentioned in The Seduction of the Innocent were EC Comics. He was the one that, was on the stand, and he blew it. He blew it in terms of, really defending comics and saying, hey, look, we got to let freedom of speech reign, and we do try our best to push the envelope but not go too extreme. And he failed at that whole thing, and it led to the Golden Age ending. And Mad Comics is kind of interesting because what happened was with Bill Gaines just sort of losing it, EC Comics, all the horror line, all the sci-fi line, all of that died. It died almost overnight. And he kind of had a fallback position, though. He went to Mad magazine. And what happened was Mad was a comic originally, and they switched to a magazine format because magazines were not bound by the Comic Code Authority. And he actually made more money with Mad than he had with the other EC books. So actually, his business grew, even though it looked like, it was destroyed by the end of the Golden Age. With Mad magazine, he actually did very well. So it was kind of an interesting sort of bit of history that he actually turned out okay. So what happened was Mad magazine was a comic size format, and then switched later, yeah, I think in issue like 19 or so, to a magazine format. But this is Mad Magazine #1 from 1952, and is considered to be the first satire comic. It has Harvey Kurtzman is the artist that did the cover, and a lot of the early, just another side with Mad, is a lot of the early like first few issues of Mad would have these really great Harvey Kurtzman covers, and they would have a lot of good girl art on them, and they were just so great. They're so witty and fun. That you know, I really enjoy Mad. Okay, so that's number 82 of my top 100, and we're now at 81, which will be the last one for this video. And this one is a book that is a hot book. This is another, sorry, I actually didn't realize that there was 2 Silver Age books. I thought there was only one. But there's 2. This is a Silver Age book that made my list. This is a hot book. This is like, so I was going on about spec books and blah, blah, blah. Well, this is one of those books that is kind of a hot spec. And it's a hot book. It's a popular book. And you'll see and you'll be like, oh, yeah. So this book is super hot. This is X-Men #4. And this is the first appearance of a whole bunch of characters. We got the Toad, major character. We got Quicksilver, another major character. And the big one that is kind of driving the spec is Scarlet Witch. Now, Scarlet Witch maybe is dead. Sorry, spoiler. Whoops. Spoiler. She could be dead. The thing in comics is you're never dead until never. You're just never dead. Even if you die in comics, they bring you back somehow. At the very end of Doctor Strange, spoiler again, you see the mountain collapsing on Scarlet Witch. However, you don't see her dying. So that, it's one of those things like, oh, at the last second she zapped out or something, who knows, right? So there's always a way that they can bring the character back. It's a common thing in comics that they love killing off the characters only to bring them back later. It sells comics. But this one is a major book because they even say, first appearance of Quicksilver, first appearance of Scarlet Witch, Toad, and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. It's also the second appearance of Magneto, and it's also his second cover appearance. I actually like this cover better than X-Men #1, to tell you the truth. I think it's a better Magneto cover. So, yeah. And the other thing that I like about this cover is you got all the new characters on the cover. That's always good. So this is X-Men #4, which is number 81 on my list of top 100 comics in my collection. And I think this is actually one of those books that has even more room to grow. It is even though it's a 2.5, you'll notice 2.5 off-white to white pages. I value this book at around $1,400. So this is still a pretty pricey book. I think it was like $600 I paid for this book. $600-700. It was around that range. I bought it way before all the hype around Scarlet Witch. So yeah, it has gone up considerably since I bought it. So a great book though. It's one that I'm super happy to have in my collection. I actually wanted that book not for Scarlet Witch. I'm a big Quicksilver fan. I always thought his character was much more interesting than Scarlet Witch. The funny thing is, in that book, he's kind of lame. He's just Quicksilver's not the coolest of characters in the X-Men #4 book. He's kind of supports his sister, but his sister is much cooler, which is kind of weird, but that's the way it is. So that has been my part 2 of my top 100 comics in my collection. I hope you enjoy these videos. The books will get bigger and bigger as we get closer to that #1 book. So I hope you watch all the parts because I I try to give lots of information with each part. So hopefully you enjoy that as well. So again, thanks again for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Bye.